little bit, but make some noise for Veronica Taylor, everybody. It's okay.
Here we are. So good to see
You
you.
too. Sorry we couldn't get the fog machine that you requested.
Oh yeah, and more fireworks.
Yeah, I know.
The falls took them all.
I know.
It's tough. How is everybody?
Good.
Nice to see you. Thanks for spending some air-conditioned time with us. And here, awesome. Do I need
I guess we can. Sure. So Niagara Falls. I guess we're talking briefly. When was the last time you were out this way? Like to really take it in? It was brief in and outs maybe, or not at all.
Yeah, I came down from Stratford Shakespeare Festival.
Okay.
And we drove through here.
Cool.
On our way back to New York City. So it's been quite a while, actually. So this is really nice. We went on the Hornblower yesterday and under the falls, which is really cool. And we've been out to Niagara on the Lake and St. Catharines and just kind of zooming around a bit. And I will put in a plug for Avis, who got us a very last minute car rental at 2 p.m. on Friday.
Nice.
So pretty awesome.
That's it's hard to find. I mean, car rentals now, the vehicle shortages and everything. It's like you got lucky. That's awesome.
That's the thing. I just phoned and he goes, "Yeah, come home." You know, like okay.
Did you do the voice? Is that what helped?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I think that might have put him off. Honestly, I just did my really nice person who could be trusted.
You're like, sir, you sound too young to drive a car.
Yeah. Do you have any cars? Just want to get a car for my dad. Yeah, I just tried to talk like my normal self. Luckily, that worked.
That's good. That's amazing. Well, we're glad to have you. This is cool. You've been
so happy to be here.
So busy as always. There's so many people excited to see you, and it's got to be really cool to know that that work that the work that you've done has this kind of an impact on people, and like still years later from older projects, and people are still lining up. Like that's got to be a really cool feeling to inspire so many people.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon has really affected all of us so deeply, and in more ways than you realize until you're actually like at a convention and say, oh wow, maybe I'll just go up and talk about Pokemon with this person who knows about Pokemon. And I know you all know more than I do about the show for sure. But it's just I feel so honored to be connected to something that means so much to people. And it means so much to me too. So I don't talk about Pokemon that much in my real life. And so I really enjoy hearing everyone's stories and the friends they've made and the adventures they've been on because of it. So, yeah, it's really quite an honor. It feels like I was working on the show just yesterday, but I was only on from season 1 through 8, which was quite a journey in and of itself.
Yeah, no kidding. And for the fans, I know people often revisit these things and they go back and they do the marathons and they rewatch the shows. Yeah. Yourself, if you're ever like flipping through the channels and it's on or it's something that you've done comes on, do you stop down and watch it? Like, do you like to hear yourself, or is it kind of a weird thing you just flip past it?
Yeah, if I've come upon something I've been on, I do watch it, or something I've auditioned for and didn't make.
Oh,
I watch that also to see like where they went with the voices. But I do enjoy, especially for when you dub something. I'll do a complete sentence now. When you dub something, you only see your lines. So for Pokemon, I only saw the lines when Ash or Ash's mom or May spoke. So if I don't watch the show in my own time, I don't really know what happened in the episode. And that's the same for anything that you dub. So I do watch it when I can. There's other things that I've been on that I played a small part, so I only saw that because we did that and then they animated to it later. So all of that. Yeah, I enjoy watching.
And when you're in those sessions, voicing, let's say, Ash, for example, are you with other actors, or is it a solo session with just you, or how do they set that up for you?
Yeah, for the most part, everything is alone now, especially.
Oh yeah.
When you're dubbing, you're always alone, and then you have an engineer and a director, because you're just fitting the lip flap. So they get the actors in one at a time, and they just go through your lines where they show up. So I don't think it's cost effective for them to have everyone in at the same time, because if you mess up something, they're still squeezing it in so that it fits the flaps. And so if you mess up something, then the next person can't do their line. So it would get more challenging than I think they'd like to deal with. So then for other things, which is prelay, where you record first and then they animate later, nowadays everything's recording from home. So you're definitely by yourself. In the good times, you can be all together, like a radio play in a sense. So you're together and working on the scenes. That's definitely much more fun. I've worked on some shows where 2 of us were in New York and 3 or 4 people were in Boston, and we did them city by city. They did the lines, even though that was pre-lay. So it's all different. It all depends on the show, their budget, I suppose, and how they can get people together.
And
That's a really long answer to what could be a simple question.
And when the Pokemon come in to voice their characters, that must get crazy in the booth.
Yeah, because they're always in character and they're always hungry. You've got to feed them so much. Mr. Mime is surprising, he eats a lot. So
I've heard that about him.
Yeah.
A bit of a diva.
Well, you didn't hear it very loud, did you? Because it's Mr.
Well,
Mime, so just a little Pokemon humor there.
Oh, mime joke for you guys.
Yes. So are you guys asking questions? Or
Yeah, we have. Do we have any questions? Because we can't start lining up at the mic, or do we? I think we can just hear you if we just want to throw hands up.
We have so many things that we could talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's.
In case people have stuff.
Okay, we'll start on this side. If you can say what's your.
Hey,
do what you like. Yeah. Wait, Paul. Wait, there you go.
Awesome.
Okay, I go. It's so weird. So basically, like, I'm sure a lot of people had like the dream to like become like famous and like so that people recognize you. But like, how does it actually feel to like just like when you just sit down and think about like the fact that people actually know who you are and like the fact that you've reached out to so many people, like in the sense that people know who you are and they appreciate you for what you do.
Yeah, I think first of all, to address the beginning, all of us. I think lately there's a weird thing about being famous. But it doesn't really have any meaning at all. I think if you really go to whatever occupation you're in and you give your 100%, that's your fame, because that's your legacy, your work, whether you are an actor or you are working in the grocery store and you are kind to every person who comes up and everyone says hi because they love you. That's fame there. But it doesn't really have any meaning in the long run. I think it's the good that you're able to do is what has meaning. For me, in my real life, nobody knows who I am or cares who I am, so I don't really have a fame in that sense, to be quite honest with you. But it is wonderful to come to a convention where it seems like I am someone, where I can walk around and people say hi, and it's really an awesome thing. I don't know what the best word for it, because it certainly makes me want to be a better person in my life, because I am responsible to you to be the best person I can be. So I think that's what Spider-Man said it best when he said, with fame comes great responsibility, and I think that is true. I think that if I have a platform that I can use through social media to talk about things that I think are important, like voting or standing up for yourself or equal rights, all of that stuff. I think I try to use my fame to talk about things that I think are good for all of us. But to work on a show that everyone has seen is pretty incredible.
Did you think it was gonna be like as big?
I had no idea.
It's a cartoon show. So.
I know, it's a cartoon. Did you think so when you first started watching Pokemon, or when you started collecting all the cards that you collected?
It was already really big.
Yeah, it was big,
it was
right,
really
for you?
Big.
I mean, did you ever think that you would be collecting all the cards that you have? And that,
hell no.
No,
Definitely not.
that you'd be spending as much time with, like, let's say, Leonard online?
When I sit down and think about it, it's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
My hobby is cardboard.
That's right. And yet, it's lasting. It's what's meaningful to all of us. I think it puts that in focus, you know? And then, let's just be real. I get to talk to all of you and get to know you, and that is really the greatest honor of my whole entire life. So it means a lot to me.
It means a lot to me. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, we'll go over to you and
Hello again. Nice to see you. Isn't it great? So many familiar
Hello.
faces today. Hello.
Okay, so when you started out voice acting and stuff, okay, how did you how were you able to make the network connections, to get a job as that pays. You know?
Yeah, right, exactly. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in acting. So you would hope that from your university you have some networking. That's one thing, which I don't know that I really did, but that's one place that you hope that you can find connections. The second thing, when I first got an audition for an anime, I was working with an acting coach. And that acting coach coached some other people who were working on things who needed recommendations, who called the acting coach. And then, so that was kind of, by working on my craft, I met someone who could get me a job. So that's one thing. I always recommend, if you, whatever field you want to be in, that you, what's that?
I want to be a writer, like, known, not known, but like, get paid for it.
Yeah, no, that's right. But if you are, I did a lot of volunteer work. I worked for a radio station that records magazines and newspapers for the blind. I got a lot of experience through that, and then I met people through that. I used to work the auditions for a children's theater company that I toured with. I did all their auditions, and I made connections through that. So even these weird little jobs that you do that keep you working on what you love doing, make you better, they can sometimes, a lot of it is recommendations. And then hopefully you can get an agent who can get you jobs that pay. But really working with, you network with people here, you meet people at the library, you meet people who are working on their own projects, and you start doing things there, and then you hope that it pays. I still am always looking for work that pays. So even after all these years.
Right. Well, I'm helping out with the story called Half-Life 3, so hopefully they'll need voice actors.
Absolutely. There's always a need for people, good people to work. So
If they make it
just keep looking. Yeah, yeah.
Cool, thanks so much, man. Your question right there in front. Yeah, you can just, you want to just yell it from there, you want to come to the mic, doesn't matter.
Sure, I'll just yell it, I guess. Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Do you use any, like, is there any voice modification stuff, or is it all you?
I would say it's all me, really, unless in post they fix it, you know? So I can be doing a voice that's up here, or one that's down here, or, you know, maybe one that's like this, you know? So it all goes around. But you want to be able to, as an actor, you want to be able to identify, I'm like, you want to use the mic correctly, but you want to be able to identify the pockets where you can place sound and work on that, work through your range so that you can come up with a place where you want to place the sound and then also figure out the character that suits that. You know, like the kind of nerdy person, as we all say, is here, you know, or I don't know, there's a lot of characters like this. So you just, I know, these are terrible examples, but bear with. But anyway, you want to be able to shift it around. And then later on, there's always that weirdo voice that they want to put some other stuff on so that it sounds echoey. I don't do my own echoes, but I do my own fade as I'm jumping off a cliff. That kind of stuff. It's all in your head, a lot of imagination, and then practice.
Cool.
Yeah?
And you are in the back, go ahead, you're next. Yep.
Ash. Hey Ash. Good to see you. She's a lovely artist as well.
Thank you.
Yes?
I'm a huge fan. I've
Yes.
always wanted to ask you, do you ever have like a favorite episode of Pokemon?
Yeah, I would say definitely the first episode is my favorite. I love how it sets up the whole journey that we're about to go on. I don't know anywhere where in the pilot you see a child put his life on the line for a companion that he just acquired that he doesn't really like. So I think it's pretty amazing. And then I think they got better and better after that, but the first one's my favorite.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome.
And you're right in the front, go ahead, what is your question?
Hi, I have a sort of similar question.
Yeah.
You did the voices for some of the movies as well.
Yeah, the
correct?
first 8.
Yes. So how did it feel like seeing a cartoon that you worked on now on the big screen and like even more of an audience? And if there was a favorite part from one of the movies, for example?
Yeah, it was, I got to go to the premiere in Los Angeles and New York, and I have to say that when we recorded the first movie, we got to record it on a giant screen rather than the tiny little monitors that we worked on in the studio in New York. But to go into the theater and it looked completely empty because everyone was 10 and their head didn't reach the seat. So it was a really incredible moment. And my daughter was very, very small as well. And it was just awesome. Yeah, I think my favorite thing really, because Ash is always running around or throwing things, I love the part, this is so dumb, but I love the part where he's running up all those stairs and he's like, and then kind of that was so much fun to do, and we would really you hear 3 beeps in your headphones and then you start talking, and we just do it wild. We did most of the stuff wild anyway, but it was just so fun to be Ash. And in that movie especially, he was really himself, you know? And there's some great jokes in there, so it was all pretty good.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, you had your hand up pretty early on, so go ahead. Yeah, you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Earlier question. I know you said you had a favorite episode, but what season was the most fun to record?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first season, Orange Islands, it's just like so primary. And they were always wandering around in nature, really, and you know, there's fruit hanging on all the trees. It was just really, I don't know, again, all of my things are so simple. I loved how simple it was. And we didn't know if we'd have another season after that. So everything was really special. We never actually knew if we'd have another season. We didn't find out till the end of each season if it was going to be renewed. So we never kind of were like, hey, we're going to be working on this show forever. Because we had no idea, ever.
Yeah, how would that work? Because you'd be finishing recording, but then the previous season would be airing at the same time? Or how was kind of the schedule? So then based on that, they would obviously one ahead kind of thing?
I think it was probably a few more than one.
One ahead, okay.
Because it takes, when we were working on the show, it took about a week to a week and a half to do one episode, which is getting all the actors in.
Okay.
And I suppose that also includes getting it, translating it, adapting it to English, getting the actors in, adding the sound, mixing it, and then getting it, sending it off to get looked at by standards and practices for broadcasting. And so we probably were about maybe 5 shows at the most. But in the very beginning, we were about a year behind Japan, and then we caught up, so we were kind of the same.
Yeah, I think you'd make a full season ahead almost.
No, definitely not. We were just a few episodes.
Okay,
So it was really, I mean, a lot of people always say like, oh, how much fun did you have? Or did you have any like, you know, what is it, whatever, blooper reels or all that? No, because we were working really hard, and if you goofed off too much, you would be fired. So we were just like, get in, here's the script, look at the monitor, let's just start. Sometimes you get a little synopsis of what's happening, but really, we were just churning it out. And then in the good old days, we working at 4Kids, there were different studios when they built when they had one floor of offices. So you could be working on Pokemon, and then I'd pop over to do some Ninja Turtles, or pop over for Shaman King, or Fighting Foodons, or you know, whatever. So you would have an hour here, 2 hours here, stuff like that, and they were just kind of cranking it out. It was a lovely place, but certainly not one that was like, hey, do you need a massage, or how are you? They were just like, get in and get out, you know?
Just changing to the floor and that's it?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
And I know. But you know,
Great.
that's the life of an actor. Work.
Your hand is up right there. Yeah, you go ahead.
What's your favorite Pokemon?
Pikachu! Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Pikachu. Yeah, so definitely my favorite.
And we'll hop down beside. Yeah, and we'll go to you in the hat third. So you have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
We'll go you. Go ahead, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in the later part of the first season with like the Ghost of Maiden's Peak arc,
Yes.
I always found that like as a kid that seemed like the whole like story of her waiting like 2,000 years for like her lover to come back, and then like she turned into stone or whatever. Like that whole sort of vibe was like really, really sort of dark for a children's show.
Yeah.
So I always kind of wondered like what was your opinion on that? You know, given how like bright and fun the show was like at the very beginning, and then like that pops up.
It is kind of nice to have the variety in there, and so much of it, because it's a Japanese show, so much is rooted in epic storytelling and myth and all of that. So I don't think I questioned it as much as I was happy that we had a shift. And then it's a little more dramatic, and as far as an actor, being an actor, it gives you a little more to play with. And yeah, so I didn't really question like, wow, this is big. Like Mew, too, for instance, that stuff that he has to say is pretty deep for a kid's movie. So it was nice that there were some real things that we could all learn from. I think some shows about loss with Butterfree and, you know, all of that. There was some, I don't know, it was real. And even with Brock and finding out about his dad and how he had to take care of all those kids, like crazy stuff. that's, you know, we all were able to learn how to live through the show, which I thought was pretty cool.
Cool. Thank you. All right, Ash in the front, go ahead.
So I was curious, like, because I know eventually in the first season, because in the first season there were a lot of episodes that were either not dubbed or they just didn't like make it through the cuts. I was just curious, like, because I know eventually they did the beach episode, they dubbed the beach episode, but that was later on after the season was over. I was just curious, like, did they like say or mention like which ones were going to be dubbed, or like, because I know the Sabari episode they skipped off over on that
Right.
as well. I was just wondering if they like had told you guys about like if when they were going to dub those episodes or
Right.
when they weren't going to dub them.
There were a couple episodes that we didn't dub, and the question ultimately is, were we told that we weren't dubbing them? And the answer is no.
Okay.
I didn't know that we skipped episodes until people at a convention actually talked to me about
Okay.
it. So I had no idea. It was a need to know basis going to work, and we didn't get any extra information whatsoever. So no, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Cool. Mario, your hand is up right away, so you go,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Besides Ash, what was your favorite role?
What's my favorite role to work on? Oh gosh, I love working. So I love everything that I get to do, for sure. But lately, working on Manuela in Fire Emblem Three Houses has been a gas, as they say. She's so over the top, and so we all had such a fun time because she's allowed to be so crazy, and then we had to really pull a lot back. Like they said, I don't think that's gonna pass, so we had to redo things. It was so much fun. And even recording from home has been great for that. So I would say that. I loved His and Her Circumstances, playing Yukino. She's so, like all of us, she goes from happy to sad to angry all in like a second. And that was a great show to work on. I don't know, there's many, many others, but I do like things that get me further from myself. Ash, of course, being the primary one.
Cool.
You're welcome.
We got a question on this side. Yeah, go ahead, sir. What is your question?
What do you call it? So like leading up to when like they were gonna start working on the first movie, like Pokemon
Yeah.
first movie, how did you feel that you were gonna get to be in like an actual movie that was gonna go into theaters across the nation?
Yeah, it was pretty cool, actually. There wasn't a lot of talk about it, but we knew it was coming, and then finding out that we got to go into a real, like a legitimate space to record was amazing. Because when we started recording Pokemon, we were in that tiny booth that had just been built in a studio, and it was freezing cold, and nothing is very glamorous. But working on the first movie was incredibly glamorous. Because you're in a dark room with a huge, huge screen, and they had a proper podium with a light for your script, and it was really nice. And then knowing that people actually went to see it was pretty cool too.
Still number
Yeah.
one.
Amazing. You're
Yeah.
Freddie. Or, yeah, you're
Yeah.
go ahead, sir.
I have a question, actually. You must know the meme by now, basically. Like, I think everyone knows. Did Brock ever give you jelly donut, basically?
Yeah. You mean why did they change it to jelly donut? Is that the?
Who wants to know if you ever actually had it?
Have I ever eaten a jelly donut?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes. What?
And on here, the thing they changed.
Have I eaten an actual rice ball?
Right.
Yes, but have I actually eaten one? I'm sure. I will say that when we started in 1998, I had never had sushi before. So I have had a lot of sushi since then.
It's like, oh, these jelly donuts are my
Yes.
favorite.
I know. I think they changed that because they didn't know if it would translate in America, which at that time, perhaps it wouldn't have as much, but I think we could have handled it. I'm just going to go out on a limb there. But again, those are things that they decided somewhere, and we just had to go with it.
It's funny how much like culturally that's changed. I was watching The Breakfast Club, and she brings
yeah.
sushi, and they're
Yeah.
like, ew, what is that?
I
She's like,
know.
sushi, like gross. And now it's like you go anywhere.
Everybody, you can
Yes.
get it at whatever, the fast food.
They're like advertising like this comes on a train. There's sushi that comes on a boat.
Yeah.
It's like it's not what it used to be.
No, and when you get it on the conveyor belt that goes around,
Yeah,
like,
I'm a
oh
sucker
my
for
gosh.
that. I want a delivery.
I
of
know.
this.
I've had that and cheese on the conveyor belt. It's
Anything
really
on a
nice.
conveyor belt, just better.
Well, maybe not anything. I'm not, we can discuss that later, but
That's true.
yeah, most things. How about that?
Most things.
Most things.
Most things. Asterisks. Okay, we'll go Motley Crue, then we'll go you in the front, so go ahead.
When did you realize that like Pokemon was becoming like such a like worldwide phenomenon, that it was getting big, that it was getting like really successful? Like when did you realize that hey, this is catching on with kids all over, like especially like North America?
Yeah, I think when it was mentioned in the New York Times, that's when my parents were like, oh yeah, I saw this is something you're working on, right? That it had meaning. When we would take the bus to school, kids would be playing on the regular bus, people would be playing Pokemon with their cards and stuff, so then I thought, maybe this will catch on. But I think really the impact is coming to conventions and talking to people about it. Because in my normal life of living in New York City and going to work and coming home, it's not like it impacted me that much then. Things at work didn't change. It was all pretty much the same. So it's really coming to conventions and talking to people and seeing how it affected your lives is how I realized it's such a big deal.
Cool. All right, what is your question?
So when it comes to scripts, do you get them in advance so you have time to prepare and practice, or do you get obviously delivered in the mail or emailed, or
Yeah.
how do you prepare like with the scripts itself?
Sure, so two questions really. The first, we get scripts ahead of time and usually not at all. When you're dubbing something, you usually get it right when you start the session. Sometimes if I'm doing something prelay, I get it the day before. If I have a song, I usually get that the day before. And so I can kind of look it through and go from there. I do think that your cold reading skills really help because you learn to skim through to see what's happening and then come up to your line and know, basically, you have to guess what the person before you is saying, how they are saying it, what they want from you, and then how you're responding. So you do all that kind of in a split second.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, how did you prepare for that? Because if
Yeah.
you don't know in advance what that character's going to do,
That's right.
or what it's going to say, you'd be like, well, how do I react to that?
That's
or how
right.
do I change my voice to impact the words that you're reading?
Yeah, you don't really know, and so you have to, that's where your acting skills come in, and it's all in your imagination where you're kind of figuring it out. The director can then piece it together a little bit more because they hopefully will know what they want out of the scene and hopefully they've seen it ahead of time. I've worked on plenty of projects where the director has not seen it before that moment either, so you're really throwing it together. But if you're working on talking and listening, or reading and listening, then it's easier to put it together like that. For a normal script, I would go through and kind of mark out some things or figure out on a bigger scale what I wanted from it or all of that in a real situation. But for animation, it's harder because it's much quicker.
Any particular Pokemon, like names that tripped you up during the process that you'd always be like, oh, that again?
Yeah, well, I can't remember anything specifically.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have remembered when I left the session either, because you're just kind of so in the moment that nothing sticks. But they did change names. We would start an episode with the name being pronounced one way, and then during the week they would say, I don't think we want this, or someone would say, because there's so many cooks in the kitchen, as it were, on Pokemon, that then later on you'd come in for pickups and they'd say, we've changed this thing. In the beginning, we said Pokemon, and then they had to change it to Pokemon, and we had to go back and re-record a lot of stuff. And so those things changed. There were a lot of tongue twistery things, for sure.
You're saying you could have had a Pikachu?
Yeah, perhaps.
In an alternate universe.
Pikachu!
It sounds weird.
Yeah, it does. It all sounds weird, until it doesn't.
We have time for only just a couple more questions, so I'll let you,
Okay, we'll go
you pick
fast.
up.
I'll go really fast. Let's go here.
Okay, she had one and then me.
Okay, go.
So, does the original Japanese voice actors ever influence how you choose to portray the role?
Yes, I think a lot of times, certainly with Pokemon, we were cast because we were closest to the original Japanese actors. A lot of auditions, they want you to get very close to that. Some they'll send a bunch of them and say, so you can listen to a tiny clip and then try to do it. I think it affects more in the audition process than it does in the recording process, because by then you're zooming along.
What's your favorite voice that no one asks you to do?
My voice. I don't know. I so I get to kind of be everyone. So there's no voice that I would pick that's my favorite, because I just like to tell the whole story. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I don't really have an answer to that otherwise. Maybe people have asked everything that there is to ask. So, there was something else here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one. What's the weirdest voice you ever done, basically?
I think sheep on Word World. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yes.
Which movie was your favorite to work on?
First movie, for sure.
How many series of Pokemon did you voice?
Series 1 through 8, seasons 1 through 8 of that. Pokemon USA replaced all of us when they took the show, so they haven't asked me to be part of it since then. Oh, sad. Yes.
Do you have a favorite audiobook that you voiced?
Oh my gosh, The Pain and the Great One by Judy Blume. I do Amish Murder Mysteries by Livy Castillo. Everything that Mary Kay Andrews has ever written. I just recorded a Pokemon book.
You did?
So that's, I don't know if that's been announced yet. So yes, there's so many. I do a lot of kids books and adult books and
where's
stuff
this
like
book
that.
now?
On my website, there's a link so that you can find anything you would want to read or listen to. Yes. Yeah, good to see you.
Did you like Pokemon or Dragonball Super better working on?
I love Pokemon because I understand it more than I understand Dragon Ball Super, but playing Ribrianne was amazing to fight with love and to send Goku through the mountain and leave a heart-shaped, whatever, impact, amazing. And what was your second? Okay, perfect. Green hat and then you in the red. We're doing this, guys. Oh my gosh. I've never played the game, so I don't really know, but I love the interactions that she has, because she's always kind of, she wants so much from them to be told how great she is, even though she really wants the best for her students at the same time. So I just like those weird scenes, unfortunately, I don't know how old people are in here, where she's like slightly inebriated or hungover, and then these weird, like, when she's not quite answering the door because she's a bit out of it still. I don't know, those things are so much fun. But we work it in sections, so I don't really know the through line with any one student. I've only seen like a tiny paragraph or a tiny scene, and then I go to someone else. So I don't really know. I hate to let you down like that. But that's all I can tell you. I remember I worked on the character. Yes?
If ever there was a reunion of everyone that worked on the first episode,
Yeah.
from 94 all the way to 98, started?
Yeah, 98.
Would you be willing to help network to make it happen?
Do you mean for Pokemon, a reunion? Oh my gosh, yes, of course. I would work on it to this day if they hadn't replaced us. I loved working on it so much. Absolutely, yeah. Make it happen, we'll all be there.
Was there one last question? I think we're over here. Go ahead. You're the last
Great
question.
job, you guys. This
We did it.
speed
We did
round.
it.
Like today's day and age, like you say, working at home a lot, you're working alone. Do you ever try and grab input from other people, loved ones, family, on your voices? Like to adjust them or make them different?
Yeah, so we're in a pandemic and my daughter has to live with me in our tiny apartment. So unfortunately, she has to listen to what I'm doing whether she wants to or not. And she is an amazing person. She has an amazing ear. And she does help me when I force her to. So I'm very thankful for that. But so other than that, no, because I'm just by myself. If I'm casting something, someone will direct you. But for auditions, you're just kind of like making it up. And I wish I had someone to help me with that. But luckily, my daughter helps me. And then I feed her.
That's a great trade.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for coming. And,
you guys, thank you so much.
Listen to it.
I hope you have a very wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for coming. Please stay safe out there. COVID numbers are still rising, so don't get sick. And Niagara Falls Comic Con, I choose you! Awesome.